Welcome, folks. Everybody can hear me, right? Well, we're having some feedback because my mic is probably too close to me. All right, straighten that out. All right, welcome to the Town of Mount Pleasant Planning Board meeting, regularly scheduled for October 9th, 2024, 7:30 p.m. We had moved this meeting from last week because of the holiday, the Jewish holiday, so we are here tonight to talk about many different things. We have business items to talk about, things we've reviewed in the past, where we've made a decision to ask the consultant to draft a resolution. We're going to review those things first, followed by continuing public hearing, and at the bottom of the list is a new public hearing. So first up is business items. Acceptance of resolutions of approval for 67 Leroy Road, site plan application SP24-7, installation of an 80 kilowatt residential generator to be fueled by propane. Wetlands application W24-03, application to mitigate the disturbance of the wetlands during the construction of addition, which was part of a previously approved steep slope application. 67 Leroy Road, Chappaqua, New York, SBL 99.6-2-18.1, Kevin Orzini. That's the resolution that we have reviewed for 67 Leroy Road. Any thoughts, comments, or questions from board members?
Yeah, two separate resolutions, Mr. Chairman, the generator itself and then the wetland permit.
Thank you. Thoughts or questions? Let the record show there's no additional comments from board members on this. We have these resolutions that are out there. What would you like to do with them?
I'll make a motion we approve the wetlands permit as drafted by the consultant.
Motion by Joan.
Second.
Second by JD. Walter.
Aye.
Jane.
Aye.
Joan.
Aye.
JD.
Aye.
Eileen.
Aye.
I skipped one. Sorry about that. Okay, next up.
I'll make a motion we accept of approval of the resolution drafted by the consultant for the site plan for the generator.
Okay, okay, motion by Joan, second by JD. Walter.
Aye.
Jane.
Aye.
Joan.
Aye.
Eileen.
Aye.
JD.
Aye.
Okay, so that's done. Next up, acceptance of resolutions of approval for the development of vacant parcels located at Bradhurst Avenue and Brighton Avenue, Hawthorne, New York, for the construction of an approximate 3,000 square foot business office and storage barn. Additional improvements include driveway, parking areas, storm water mitigation facilities, landscaping and screened areas. Applications include subdivision, so there's a subdivision, site plan steep slopes in this. Applications include subdivision SD 23-04, site plan number SP 23-07, steep slopes SS 23-13, SBL 112.9-1-2 and 3. Owner is Brighton Avenue Properties LLC. What would any questions or comments on this from the board?
We have to do these three separate?
Three separate resolutions, as the chairman indicated.
Okay, let the record show there's no additional questions or comments from the board. What do you want to do with these resolutions?
I'll make a motion we approve the subdivision as drafted by the consultant.
Motion by Joan.
Second.
Second by JD. Walter.
Aye.
Jane.
Aye.
Joan.
Aye.
Eileen.
Aye.
JD.
Aye.
Okay. And one is done. Do we have another?
I'll make a motion we accept the steep slopes application for approval as drafted by the consultant.
Motion by Joan.
Second.
Second by JD. Walter.
Aye.
Jane.
Aye.
Joan.
Aye.
Eileen.
Aye.
And JD.
Aye.
Okay. And last one.
I'll make a motion we accept the site plan approval as drafted by the consultant.
Motion from Joan.
Second.
Second from Jane. Walter.
Aye.
Jane.
Aye.
Joan.
Aye.
Eileen.
Aye.
And JD.
Aye.
And I for me. Okay. So all three of those are done. So next up is continuing public hearing. Number one, proposed Kensico Preserve Toll Brothers proposed 162 age restricted multifamily townhouse development on the parcel previously approved for the Kensico Preserve residential subdivision, previously known as Baker, which lies between Columbus Avenue and Westlake Drive, and Thornwood application subdivision number SD 23-03, site plan SP 23-05, steep slopes number SS 23-12, wetlands number W 23-03. Location is vacant parcel, Columbus Avenue, Thornwood, New York. Section plot line number is 112.16-1-1. Zone R3A. Owner Allegiance of Christ Incorporated. Applicant Toll Brothers Incorporated. Engineer Architect JMC Engineering PLLC. Attorney Zarin and Simons LLP. Petitioner Contract Vendee Toll Brothers Incorporated. Welcome.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board and staff. Brad Schwartz from Zarin and Steinmetz on behalf of Toll Brothers, joined by Kevy Moses and James Karras from JMC Engineering. So when we were last before your board, you all kept the public hearing open so we could address 3 issues that were not resolved at the conclusion of the prior hearing session. And I'm pleased to report that all 3 issues have been addressed. Very briefly, the first one is traffic. Your board hired Labella, an outside independent traffic consultant, to review JMC's traffic report from June of 2023. And Labella issued a report confirming that it concurred with JMC's methodology, as well as its conclusions that there would be no adverse traffic impacts from this project. The second issue was feedback from the Valhalla Fire District, and there's a letter dated August 9th where the fire district has reviewed the plans and confirmed that it has no issues with the plans. And the third and final item was the sidewalk issue, and Toll Brothers is committed to depositing funds with the town for the town to use at its discretion to construct a sidewalk. Those funds would be deposited prior to the issuance of a building permit. So those were the 3 issues: traffic, fire, sidewalk. We believe they've all been satisfactorily addressed, and we ask your board to close the hearing tonight.
No. I'm sorry. Just set level set. We're not taking public comment. Just let the speaker finish, and then we can open up for public comment.
So our request, Mr. Chairman, tonight, at the conclusion of the public comments, is that the board close the hearing and authorize the preparation of a resolution.
Okay, thank you. Questions or comments from board members?
The Labella report had a number of recommendations for just small things. Their conclusions were that it was a good report,
Yep.
it was right, but they had a number of recommendations that I want to know if those would be considered part of a resolution.
Conditions of approval.
Okay.
And you don't have a problem with that?
We don't. I think that the 2 key ones that would be conditions of approval, one was additional counts at Westlake Drive to confirm the speed, to confirm site distance, and the second one was an accident report to confirm, again, safety issues.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments?
They also made a recommendation about a comprehensive pedestrian connections and traffic calming. Is that going to be included as well?
So again, internal walkways and pedestrian connectivity, that's not part of the proposal. We are committing to that off-site sidewalk, but Kevin had previously explained that Toll Brothers projects typically do not include that kind of internal connectivity. Folks walk in the streets, and any kind of sidewalks internal to the project, because of how many homes and all the different driveways, it's just not practical.
Any other questions or comments from board members? Let the record show that there's no additional questions or comments from the board. Okay. So we're here tonight for the continuation of public hearing. I'm just going to read a couple things. Just where have we been? So we've been reviewing this project for several years. That's the time frame in one shape, form, or another. It's been before us for many years. The project is the reapproval of a plan that mirrors the footprint of the previously approved Baker subdivision. In accordance with the secret neg deck adopted in November of last year, no adverse environmental impacts will result. That's according to the secret negative declaration that we have before us. While the toll plan includes more dwelling units, the units are attached townhomes restricted to seniors. Senior housing limits impact, let me skip this one thing, I can't read this too good. Senior housing limits impact on school and traffic are limited. The town board has already rezoned the site from OB1 to R3A to allow for the townhouse development. 48.3 acres of the site will be sold to the New York City DEP for watershed protection purposes and will remain permanently undeveloped. 18.2 acres are being given to the town next to the community center to allow for anything that the town wants to use it for. The developer will be upgrading the town's water supply system in and around the site. The project will result in an annual net tax surplus of approximately $2.2 million. So that's sort of the background on this for those who have not heard the background. Now, just to frame tonight, I run a strict meeting because I need to. People are enthusiastic, they want to say things. I want to hear everything that people want to say. However, we have to remember we have to follow good order. I'm going to, in a moment or two, give people numbers, ask you to raise your hand on now. If you have a number, you can speak. If you don't have a number, you can't speak. If you're a person who's undecided, if you want to have a number or don't have a number, then raise your hand and take a number. Because I'm not going to go through this hands jumping back and forth all over the place. My job here is to manage the meeting, and I have to do it effectively. We can't have back and forth with the applicant. The applicant presents to us, the public presents to us. So that's just sort of the framework about that. Now, I will say we've talked a lot about a lot of different things. Traffic was a big topic. We do have this study that has come back from Labella, which the applicant has reviewed, which the board has reviewed, and we do have this letter from the fire department that did state that they have no problem with the application as it exists. So with that being said, does that understood about the format of the meeting? Yes or no? Yes, okay. So with that being said, I'm going to ask everybody who wants to speak to raise your hand. I'm going to limit everybody to maximum of 5 minutes. If you don't need 5 minutes, don't say it. If what you have heard before has already been said, don't say it. You don't need to say the same thing over and over and over again. So let's do it one more time. The numbers I see: number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5, number 6, number 7, number 8, number 9, number 10. 10. Going once, going twice, going 3 times. There's 10 speakers tonight on this topic. Okay. With that being said, can speaker number 1 come up to the podium or to the mic, state your name and all that for the record.
My name is Ben Urena. My question is, out of the 160 some odd units, we're told that it's not going to affect our schools because it's going to be seniors. I think it will affect our schools because where's the guarantee that our schools are already at capacity? How is that? Is there going to be an extension to the schools, or are they going to, what are they going to do? We're going to add more kids to the classrooms?
No. So there's the
Kids are, well, let me finish. We have,
No, I'm going to jump in. Let me just jump because I'm going to stop where we're going.
There's no children.
There's no, every meeting we've had so far has detailed how there's deed restrictions on those sites. There are going to be no children in that development going into that school.
Forever.
that was my question, as I stated for the record. Is there a guarantee that there will be no children?
Yes.
Yes.
It's a deed restriction. When there's a deed restriction, that's it.
Another thing is, how would that impact our police force? How many additional police does the town have to pay for to police that whole subdivision or the whole complex?
That's a police decision.
No, that's a town decision because we pay for the police.
Yeah, it is, and that's, the police will do the evaluation of what they're going to do with the population as a whole, whether it's this development or all the developments in town.
Another question. With the $2.5 million in additional revenue,
2.2.
is our taxes going to be less?
I don't know.
What are you doing with this $2.2 million?
What am I personally doing? Nothing.
We don't.
No, you guys make the decisions.
We do make decisions, but that's a town board decision. This is a planning board. The planning board doesn't get involved with the budget and all the logistics about where money is allocated to. That is outside the purview of this board. If you want to have that question, which I think you do, the town board does meet every month, twice a month, and you can bring those questions to the town board, but we can't get into that conversation here, because that's not our jurisdiction.
All right.
And if you want to know how we base our decisions, it's based on what the law says. What our town board makes the law, and New York State makes the laws. We just, whatever these site plans or steep slopes or wetlands permits, they must follow those laws, whether we like them or not. not relevant. That's what we're required to do, and if you were here, maybe one day you will be here.
Maybe.
And then you will.
I know a lot of people.
You will have to do the same thing, and sometimes it's not easy.
Listen, at the end of the day, I'm a longtime resident of Mount Pleasant myself. And there's two sides of myself. The planning board chairman and also as an individual lived here. I understand your perspective, I get it, but at the end of the day, we have to follow the framework of the law. The framework of the law has to guide every decision this board makes as opposed to personal opinion or thoughts of that nature. So when we look at it through that lens, sometimes we end up in decisions that we like or dislike. But that's where we are tonight.
And out of all those units, how many is low income?
There's
None.
None, right? Okay,
Okay?
thank you.
Speaker number 2.
Hi, Grace Prairie. It's the first meeting I'm at. Is it going to be, are they going to be ranches, buildings? Do we know that yet?
So,
The condominiums.
so
One level?
one
Two and a
second.
half.
Could you just say where you live, just for the record?
Oh, Pleasantville.
Okay, so it's a Pleasantville person, okay. So I'm going to ask the applicant to speak to the question about ranches or not, because I think that has come up before. You were asking the question, is there going to be ranch-style units?
You know, more like Heritage and Somers. Is it going to be
Correct.
like that? Sometimes there are buildings and there's 4
So we've
apartments in a
addressed this,
building.
you haven't heard it, but I wanted to have the applicant speak to it. We have heard the answer to this before, but I think the applicant can speak to it more eloquently than I can.
Kevy Moses from Toll Brothers. Pleased to be here this evening. As always, thank you for your time and consideration. So the homes in this property will primarily be 2.5-story, 3-bedroom townhomes. There will be a smaller, more affordable unit that is not necessarily a ranch, but is more single-story rather than 2-story. In 25% of the locations throughout the site, they will be offered in those 25% of the locations on site. But primarily, this is a 2.5-story townhome
So,
community.
was there a question at some point, if before you bought the unit, there was some level of, because there was one letter that we received a while ago from somebody who was in a wheelchair. And that question that came was, can we make everything one level? And I think the answer was, if they did it before we built, there was some discretion on that.
Discretion on the point of time where,
How we build the unit,
so
if the master's on the first and all that kind of stuff.
that's correct. Every unit will be offered with a master down layout, i.e. single-story living for the primary uses in life.
Right.
With guest rooms on the second.
So if somebody bought the unit and they were handicapped and they were in a wheelchair and they want to make doors wider and narrower or wider and more handicapped accessible, would that be something they could do?
So Toll makes every accommodation possible to work
Okay.
with prospective customers, but I can't opine on those details precisely.
All right, thank you. Does that answer your question?
There's only 25 units at ranches, 1 level?
No.
25%.
25% will be offered, so if someone chooses that unit,
Yeah.
again, that unit type, one versus another, they will have that opportunity in 25% of the locations.
And taxes. Do they have an idea on the taxes?
The taxes. and
A
the-
full fiscal report was completed for the project. While that does not necessarily, it projects tax revenue, I can't tell you exactly what taxes would be
No,
per
and
unit.
the assessor, and I'm sorry, but the assessor has to at some point, is going to get involved with making the determination what each unit is going to be. We know it's not going to be low, because none of our homes are low. But those level of details will have to come out as the units are built. But we do have a projected tax revenue that the town is going to be collecting, which is $2.2 million. What each individual unit is, I don't have those exact numbers in front of me. So, no. We'll get to you. Does that answer your question, Mrs. Prairie? Come on up to the mic, please.
Prices?
We don't have that either.
Thank you.
Jim, just to clarify, the 2.2 is above service costs, so the revenue that's required for police services and so forth, 2.2, excuse me, is above that.
Okay.
It's a surplus
So
beyond.
That's the surplus we're going to get. Okay, thank you. Okay. Okay, so speaker number 2.
3.
3, thank you. You guys always keep me track, I'm sorry. Speaker number 3. Welcome, state your name, all that for the record.
Absolutely. Jason Billig, Forwood.
Thank you.
Hello, everybody. I'm going to read from this just so I make sure I cover everything in the 5 minutes.
Yep.
I'd like to state the concerns, as I did in prior meetings, with the traffic studies being used, their lack of rigor depicting public safety conditions of adding additional vehicles through Westlake Drive neighborhoods due to this project and construction. There's no question there will be additional volume of traffic. That cannot be disputed. The original study conducted in 2015, nearly a decade ago, was conducted at a time in June that notably has a reduction of vehicular traffic in and out of the school and when school sports are winding down and/or finished. The study was supplemented with only 2 days of evaluation on June 8th and 10th in 2023, also in that same time of year, so ditto to the above. This is notable even more because the Westlake fields were still under construction, and therefore no vehicular traffic for after-school sporting events were possible at this time. So no events. The fields were out of use. Since the fields have been expanded and are in use as of fall 2023, we now see an excessive amount of vehicle traffic in the area, notably in the spring, where there can be up to use of 4+ fields in use at the same time: lacrosse, softball, tennis, and soccer, on top of non-sport related to schools and events. The entire lot can be filled with vehicles from 2:30 to 8 p.m. with an overflow of vehicles as games end and begin. People from our area, our schools, as well as visitors to our school. None of these have been calculated in any of the studies, nor the last assessment that was given, which basically just reviewed the same data and checkpoints of the earlier studies. The third-party data therefore just reviewed flawed data and therefore did not make any additional claims in understanding of the safety conditions in this neighborhood. I'd also like to point out that for detecting cars in 2023, if they did locate these in the exact same spots, that the school has a new arrangement of in and out, and therefore would only calculate 1 car passing by once the school, not twice coming and going, because of the way of the new configuration. So therefore, that number probably is not accurate either. So therefore, any car that stays within the neighborhood would be considered kind of a half car, and therefore your numbers are off. Beyond that, there's still no mention of impact of the 3 intersections on Nannyhagen, Swanson, Westlake, and Richard, which some of the most dangerous intersections in the entire neighborhood. There's fast traffic on Nannyhagen, limited sight lines at each of these intersections make it treacherous, and this project will just exacerbate these conditions. Why these intersections are omitted from the report is beyond me, but I suspect it's because the applicant would not like the results and findings. Westlake has 2 ends. We've only considered the one on Stevens, and the other is in a more dense residential neighborhood that has been completely ignored. That is dangerous. This project adds more volume, which inherently will make this neighborhood more dangerous, and it's the board's job to consider and mitigate these risks. I have not seen anything proposed to mitigate any of these risks. So as previously stated, I'm not against building the development, but as previously stated, we should not permit an entrance or exit onto Westlake Drive, period. It's a public safety issue to the existing neighborhood. We're not asking to stop the project, we're just asking for the basics, which is to keep our neighborhood safe. If, and I don't even want to say this, but if an entrance onto Westlake Drive must be permitted, I would ask for the following: no deliveries, delivery trucks, maintenance vehicles, including trash removal, snow removal, to use this entrance ever. It would reduce vehicular traffic on Westlake Drive and the dangerous intersections while reducing the number of large vehicles, which are the most problematic on the narrowest road in the neighborhood. Nannyhagen in reports is listed as the most narrow road. Westlake Drive has no runoff, no shoulder, and cuts through the dense community, which no one can get out of the way. There are people that walk on that area. My own son rides his bike to visit his friends, and there's people with carriages that have to dive out of the way of vehicles. It's a dangerous condition. No entrance, I'd also ask, no entrance is permitted during high traffic hours, so no use of that entrance or exit during that time, ideally from 6:45 to 9 a.m. and 4:30 through 7 p.m. Monday through Friday. We would also request only permitting right turns onto Westlake Drive from this exit. This is after construction, therefore minimizing additional vehicle traffic flowing past the school and the neighborhood which is impacted. These are all simple solutions to improve the safety in the area, have no impact on this project moving forward. It's not saying no, it's not doing anything other than protecting the neighborhood in that area. Also, while this project is under construction, the applicant stated in the last meeting that the Westlake Drive would be used by construction vehicles at the very end of Phase 2. We would strongly recommend, as part of the transportation plan, that all of their contractors that Westlake Drive is not used prior to this phase, and there is clear determination when this phase is open, so that it's written that they know it's not until a certain period, a certain level of construction. It was also in their note that there would be that when they described it, they said it would be vehicles like painters in their F-150s, which sounds reasonable, plenty of F-150s in that neighborhood. But to ensure this description to the public is accurate, we request in writing that only vehicles of Class 2A be permitted on Westlake Drive. 2A encompasses all F-150-like trucks described by the applicant in the last meeting. Class 2B and higher classes should not be permitted onto Westlake Drive. That includes F-250, 350, etc., which commonly have dually axles and are much wider. These, again, create issues and are on a narrow road where their width is a challenge. These vehicles should not be permitted. We'd also request that trailers not be permitted on this road regardless of class. That is another challenge to the community, that we do not need those trailers going through this community on tight roads and past the school. The applicant's description of two-axle vehicles as the restriction is vague and misleading. A school bus is two axles. Our trash collection trucks are two axles. Our town roadwork vehicles with large oversized beds and expansive widths are also two axles. We need the class restriction to keep us safe. I'd also ask that restriction to Westlake Drive be with the absolutely described Class 2A vehicles and smaller without trailers, Class 2B and above not. In closing, entrance to and exit onto Westlake Drive poses dear safety risks, should not be permitted. Large vehicles and trailers on Westlake Drive should not be permitted. Your job is to keep things legal and safe. Now please enforce that portion of safety for our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, speaker number 4. Speaker 4? Welcome, you just state your name and where you're from for the record.
Good evening,
Good evening.
board members, neighbors. My name is Fred Kopelak. I live on Eastview Drive. I've lived on Eastview Drive, my wife and I, for over 36 years, so we're a long-time Bell Howell resident. And as gardeners with an 1.25 acre property, we feel our bodies are now telling us it's time to move on. I had a torn rotator cuff. I'll not talk about my problems, but we got to stop digging in the garden. We have ties to this community and would like to stick around. My wife Gigi is a volunteer at the Town Conservation Advisory Committee, belongs to Pleasantville Garden Club. I've been a volunteer at Blythehill Children's Hospital for the last 14 years. I'd like to stay close by. We really appreciate the town offering an over 55 community. I know in today's world the population growth is a concern, and the, quote, not in my neighborhood syndrome is quite prevalent. But keeping us older folks around can provide some benefits. I'm sure there are many other retirees looking to stay in this area who volunteer or in paid positions provide needed support in our community. School bus drivers, crossing guards, to name a few. Another benefit I also see is the added tax revenue to the school system. I think it's around $2 million. Not a lot of tax going to the town. But that's because this is a self-sufficient community. We're going to provide our own road sanitation services. As for additional traffic, if my wife and I move into the development, driving, I realize there's a lot of traffic on Westlake. I mean, I count 50 Amazon trucks and FedEx trucks every day. It's crazy. But as far as the people living in there, as a senior, my wife and I each own a car. 80% of the time, we're in the same car. The only time she's in her car is when she's going to her bridge game or I'm going to my golf game. Otherwise, we're in the same car. So all our traffic is not going to be, you know, from all the people that's living there. Okay, and for the environment, yes, trees are going to be cut down for these homes, but actually when I looked at the plan from maps, there's a lot of area that there's not going to be trees cut down. Not all of them. There will be trees cut down, no doubt about it. But I wish we were as concerned in the Stonegate area that I live in for the environment. When I moved here 36 years ago from Long Island, I was happy to see the high number of trees in this area and not flat expansive lawns like on Long Island. That process seems to have reversed. Far too many trees have been gone to keep leaves from pools, Pools that I've seen emptied into the stream, feeding into the reservoir. Trees cut to make a weed insect-free lawns and explode the size of houses. The stream in my backyard over time has lost wildlife and is overgrown with algae because of the chemicals used to create pristine lawns abutting it. Catch basins, a nice term for a garbage trap, have been installed to catch refuse, but they do not stop the chemicals pouring into our drinking water. Sorry, I digress too much. The last thing I'd like to mention is the sidewalk. A sidewalk on the east side of Westlake would probably remove more trees than the development will remove. Because if you ride down Westlake, there's hundreds and hundreds of trees. On the east side, it's going to affect a lot of the homeowners. They've got plants, they've got trees, they've got walls, and the entire Con Ed power system in Verizon has to be moved. I can't imagine what that would cost. I think a better solution would be to put like a sidewalk, a bike path that weaves through the property, similar like all over the county. There's plenty of bike paths that you could walk through there and get to from point A to point B. Another observation is, I'm a former IBMer. That property was originally developed as an IBM education center, and I've been there and I've been in that place. They had a path, it was actually an exercise path that went down to Columbus, which actually my wife and I in the wintertime years ago cross-country skied through there to get to Rose Hill to go shopping. So it was nice to have that path. Possibly somebody could approach the EF school organization, and maybe there can be some incentives that they would allow us to use that, connect it to the path going through the property. So you wouldn't need a sidewalk on Westlake that would cost prohibitive.
Yeah.
I think a bike path or something through the property, and I'm sure they'd be willing to separate a little bit of the houses to make sure people could go through there. I don't see any problem with that.
Okay, thank you.
As you can tell, I'm for this development, so.
Yeah, and just to clarify one point, the sidewalk conversation, the applicant presented that the sidewalk would be held in abeyance, if you will.
Yeah, no, I understand.
So-
Abeyance means eventually.
Well, not on Westlake Drive, though.
I'm sorry?
Not on Westlake Drive.
Not, okay. I'm
So
sorry.
not on Westlake. Well, that's to be determined,
Okay.
but not on Westlake Drive.
I
Okay?
think if it was through the property, it'd be a lot more benefit for the people in the Stonegate, for the kids to get to school
Yeah.
on a bike or walking without being close to traffic.
Okay. Thank you.
My point. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, we're at speaker number 5, please. Welcome.
Good evening. My name is Ronald Prno. I live on Greenwood Lane in Valhalla. The road that's being connected to Westlake Drive was originally for the Baker Properties, which was for residential homes. Am I correct in that assumption? This is senior housing. Westlake Drive serves only two purposes. One for the school district, the middle school and the high school, and also for the residents in Stonegate, Halsey, and Greenwood and Rutledge. Why would you go north when you're traveling south, when you want to go south? It makes doesn't make any logic. You have a traffic light on Columbus Avenue between Lozier Drive and the EF school. Most of the cutouts on Columbus Avenue are already there for making turns. Why not use that as an main entrance, grand entrance, so to speak, for this facility, and forget about Westlake Drive completely? Because Westlake Drive that's our only access out of where we are. It terminates at Nanahagan, like a gentleman said before, and it also ends at basically ends at the beginning of Stevens Avenue. With the increased traffic, as everybody knows, in front of Town Hall here, if you try to make a left turn to go onto Columbus Avenue South, a lot of times St. Christopher's ready to jump out of the car because there's cars coming up the hill rather quickly, and you're taking your life in your hands. You may want to consider a third lane, a separate left turning lane. And another thing also, I have my office in Chappaqua, and I was talking to the chairman here. Have any of you been up to the crossing in Chappaqua at all?
Yes.
You have? Okay. None of you have been there. Have you seen the Toll Brothers project? It's rather big.
Yes, it is.
It's as big as downtown Pleasantville when you figure out the configurations. Now, the board has an opportunity here because the town of Newcastle reduced the number of bedrooms from 3 to 2. You don't need 3 bedrooms for a senior housing. It's a husband and wife and maybe a spare bedroom, or if the husband snores at night, he gets the second bedroom. You would have that. They put some other restrictions, but most important, you have a unique opportunity now to reach out to the Newcastle Planning Board Chairman, Mr. Robert Kirkwood, and get his feed as to exactly how Newcastle, which is our next door neighbor town-wise, we have the town of Mount Pleasant, you get the town of Newcastle, and get some advice as to how they handled that particular project. We have a very good planning board in this town, but this is a huge project. And I think getting insight from other people may be a benefit to both our town and also help the board.
Yeah,
Okay.
I wish we came up with another term for bedroom, because bedrooms are not really only for
A
beds anymore.
study.
I mean, you go to any number of homes in town here, and my home included, there's a room dedicated just for my office. And I think that's how people live today. You know, they don't look at bedrooms the same way that they used to look at bedrooms.
True, but these houses are going to have a living room and a dining room, a
Okay.
kitchen, right? Right? The fact of the matter is that people are going back to their offices. This is a retirement, a lot of this is a retirement community, over 50. So you don't have the same thing as if you were a lawyer holding you're practicing it within your own house or any other type of practice. This is just strictly recreational type of thing. You get a laptop, you put it on the kitchen table, and you're all set to go. But it's something to consider. And like I said, I would suggest that you reach out to these people because they've had the experience. And I think in this way, it will give you a better understanding of what they went through, and that you can apply it to your own application.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Okay, speaker number 6. Welcome, and just state your name and where you're from for the
evening.
record.
My name is Wal Stoper. I live on Pine Road.
Welcome to speak right into the mic if you can.
I live on Pine Road, and I have some comments which are very important in my opinion, but I'm sure they were already commented through the previous speaker. Number one, what's going to happen to all the animals which live in the neighborhood? The deers, the turkeys, they all cross over to go to drink the water. What happened to those? Are they going to be misplaced, or are they just tough luck? Number two, I believe you probably know the area quite well, at the 90-degree curve going down on, there should be a traffic light in this case. And it's my opinion that instead of 162 residents shorten the number. Make it 60, make it 70, not 160. It was mentioned before, and I agree with the gentleman, that there is a lot of traffic on Pine Road, coming to Pine Road. Every morning in the AM, there are 3 children buses, school buses, come to go, and in the AM, and in the PM on a return, there's a number of children that are being discharged right there on Pine. So I believe that the board can instruct the construction company to downscale the number of residencies.
Yeah, and just to speak to it, the numbers aren't picked out of a hat. There's a formulaic approach that the applicant goes through with our consultant and with the town staff to come up with that number. So that number is what they have the right to build. So that's what we're dealing with. So it's and again, remember I started the conversation off from the beginning of the night. We have to operate within the framework of the law. This is what's in place today, whether we like it or not. That's the framework of the law that this board has to operate within.
But you have the authority to...
No, we do not.
You do not?
Because here's what happens. If we turn down the application because, we want 20 homes, we want 30 homes, we want 40 homes, what do you think is going to happen? The applicant is going to probably take an action or something would happen. We have to operate specifically within that framework. We just can't pick arbitrary numbers at this level. This board can't do that.
If I can, Jim. So it's in the R3A zone. So that's already predetermined how many units can be built per acre. So this board doesn't have to opine on that. That's already predetermined. So Toll Brothers is entitled to build X amount of units per acre that they have for the site. So it's, as Jim was saying, it's not an arbitrary number, and we don't have any authority on that.
But I really don't agree on that, number one. Number two, I have no authority of disagreeing, but the number of homes per acre is the criteria of the builder.
Not really. Not in this circumstance, sir.
I doubt that, but that's my privilege.
And that is your privilege, and that's why you're here tonight. But my privilege is and JD's privilege was speaking back in terms of explaining the perspective of where the number came from. The number didn't come from anybody on this board. The number came from this formulaic approach that was taken with the staff, the applicant, attorneys, a whole bunch of other people came up with this formula that I keep talking about that came to this conclusion that this was what was allowed. And that's based on the zoning that's in place today. The zoning allows it.
Because the number of traffic and
I understood, but if the zoning, the zoning specifically does allow it.
And was mentioned several times by several individuals or people that the traffic is going to be very heavy, and a traffic signal should be placed somewhere or considered placing on the 90-degree curve there.
Okay. Well, thank you for coming out tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you. Speaker number 7. Welcome. State your name and all that for the record.
Good evening. Christy Benedetto, 3 Foxwood Lane. I'm new up here. I've been living up here about 10 years now, and I love it. I moved here from another town in Westchester that was kind of, they like to build on every square inch of land, and it was getting to the point where, you just wanted to get a little bit more woods and trees and so on and so forth. That's what I like about up here. So, I just wanted to come and voice my opinion about, about the niceness of the area, and, we just have to watch about how much we build on everything. I know everything's about money and building and so on and so forth, but, these are just things that we have to take into consideration. Everything has an impact, good, bad, or indifferent, what we do. So I just think it's one of those things we have to, it's a slippery slope, and I see both sides to everything, but, I think there's a lot of people that have lived here a lot longer than me, and they've seen the influx over the years and stuff, and I just hope that, you know, we're kind of going to keep it. You know, I like people have nice property and, you know, space between their homes and everything, and it makes it a nice area to live in. And then just one other thing, you know, with the guarantee about the children, you know, in the community and stuff like that, we don't know what's going to happen 20 years down the road. There's no guarantees in life except for paying taxes and dying, so we all know that. So we just got to watch. You never know.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much. Speaker number 8. Speaker 8 still here? Yes. Good evening. Just state your name and where you're from for the record.
Hi, Melissa Billig. I live in Thornwood.
Thank you.
I have been at several of these meetings, and repeatedly it seems like we keep saying the same things about the traffic. And I know that Toll Brothers was tasked with reviewing it, and I really don't frankly think that anything has changed. There was a third-party review, but it's repackaging the prior studies. And I know the gentleman referred to that earlier, but I read it cover to cover, and there are recommendations in it, and I don't think that those have been answered. I think that there's a major concern if you actually have children in the district and you drive them to school at 7:30, the traffic goes from Westlake and it goes almost down to Nannyhagen, and it goes all the way down, and it is insane. And the thought of adding more traffic and more people and more, and maybe putting a sidewalk in, and maybe having, I don't understand why we have to have an entrance at all at Westlake. There should just be, put it on Columbus, have the sidewalk put there. I don't think that it's satisfactory, respectfully, that you're getting a sum of money from Toll Brothers that you might put a sidewalk in. I mean, this is crazy. The board is responsible for the town, right? The safety of the people who are here. You have heard every time that I've come here and that other people have come here that safety is a major issue. This is a liability exposure for the town that really should be seriously considered. God forbid somebody gets hurt because we have all this extra traffic, all these people. There are people that walk dogs, there are people that are walking babies in strollers, there are kids on bikes, some with helmets, some without. That's a whole other issue, but it is really terrible. And I don't think that the third-party report that was prepared does anything. That study was done in June, on June 10th and early in June. There are no seniors at school, there are no sports at school, there's testing that's occurring. You have basically taken data when it is the lowest attendance possible. Why hasn't it been done in October? Why hasn't it been done in November? Why are we picking those same dates? Really, why is nobody questioning this? It's infuriating. I think that's pretty much all I have. I just want to express, it's very difficult to sit and listen to these meetings repeatedly saying the same things, and I really hope that the board takes Toll Brothers and asks them to do this appropriately.
Thank you. Speaker number 9. Speaker number 9. Do we have speaker number 9 here? Yes. Going once, going twice, going 3 times. Okay, so speaker number 10.
Actually, I think the issues have been touched on, so.
Okay. Let the record show speaker 10 is abstained. Okay. So with that being said, we've heard from 8 people. Any additional questions or comments from board members? Let the record show there's no additional questions or comments from board members. So we have an open public hearing.
I'll make a motion, we close the public hearing.
Motion from Joan.
Second.
Second from JD. Walter.
Aye.
Jane.
Aye.
Joan.
Aye.
Eileen.
Aye.
JD.
Aye.
Okay, so the public hearing is closed. What are the thoughts, or do we have any thoughts on Kensico Preserve and what to do with this application? with the closed public hearing?
So, Mr. Chairman, if you chose to take the next step on this application, it would be the direction to prepare drafts of
Yep.
resolutions of approval. That would include all of the conditions, including the comments you heard this evening.
Correct.
Baked into those resolutions. You would have the opportunity to review those documents, and then at a future meeting, you'd have the opportunity to vote on those documents if you chose.
Correct, which is, you know, our SOP, standard operating procedure. So, okay. So, thoughts or questions or motions from the board? One way or the other.
I would make a motion to draft a resolution
Approval?
of approval.
Motion from JD. Do we have a second? Do we have a second? I'm not hearing a second.
I'll second.
Second from Walter. Walter.
Aye.
Jean.
Aye.
Joan.
Nay.
Eileen.
Nay.
JD.
Aye.
And an aye from me.
Motion carries.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, we have another application to review.
We have a question about the proposal that you approved before,
I just have one clarification.
Not,
Or do we do it another meeting?
let's, yeah, you're here for something else altogether we already reviewed for business items. You're going to take that up with Carolyn and or whomever during the week, but we can't do that here tonight. So, okay, next up, new public hearing. One Point Place, construct a series of mezza retaining walls, thereby creating a usable rear yard configuration, including a pool. Application steep slope number SS 24-05. Location, One Point Place, Chappaqua, New York. Section block number is 99.10-2-3.42, zone R40. Owner and applicant is Doshi J. and Supriya, 50%. Doshi Vinay and Vasanti at 50%. Engineers A, professional engineers PC. So we have a public hearing, folks. Do we want to waive the reading of the public notice?
I'll make a motion that we waive the reading of the public notice.
Motion from Jane.
Second.
Second from Eileen. Walter?
Aye.
Jean?
Aye.
See Joan?
Aye.
Eileen?
Aye.
JD?
Aye.
And an aye for me. Okay. Come on up, sir. Okay, because this is a public hearing, we're going to pivot this to the public so they can see what you're presenting. You've already presented to us.
Okay.
I'm more interested in having the public, but you're going
He
to...
wants you to turn the easel so the
turn the
public
easel,
can see.
but you're going to address us. But the public may be here for this. And if anybody here is from the public for this application at One Point Place, you're welcome to come up closer to see. Thank you. Okay. Just state the name, your name and all that for the record when you get back up to the mic.
Oh, do you want to?
Oh, I need you too. You're the man of the show. I thought you're doing a magic act or something.
Okay, Peter White, A&E Engineering.
Thank you.
So we need you to describe what you're proposing for the public to see. So, because we've heard it before, but with the public, this is the public hearing, so they need an opportunity to look at it in case anybody wants to comment on it.
Okay, so there's a property at One Point Place in Chappaqua, and this is actually looking at the rear of the property. This is an image of the rear yard of that particular home. That's the house at One Point Place. And this area where this wooden fence is about where the property line is. What we have is a situation where there's about 30 feet of flat area behind the house, and then it continues to go downhill, 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 until it reaches the property line. And had the surveyor continued, it would go 20 more feet to the house and property below. What we're proposing is the construction of a series of mesa walls. This one is a curved wall. This one is a straight wall. There's a straight wall across here with a giant arborvitae planted behind it to shield the wall. Another one behind it, and then ultimately, this wall would be built in such a way that it can accommodate an above-ground swimming pool, and now the property owner has approximately 65 feet from the back of the house to have a usable yard. That's basically what the,
So are there any restrictions, because when that development came here 6 years ago or more, whatever it was now, 7 years, when that came to us, I thought there was a conversation at one point about pools and us putting some thoughts around it and not doing pools.
Right, so it wasn't restricted, but it was a conversation that resulted in the configuration of these lots.
Right.
So if at the time pools were proposed, you might have approved a different configuration at the time. It was never envisioned. So that's why this is something you have to look at with fresh eyes, but in the context of that prior approval, that really never anticipated this type of improvement.
Right, because, right, okay.
and additionally, as a result of the terrain that's in here, this is actually an above-ground pool and not an in-ground permanent pool. It's an above-ground pool that is being put in behind the walls, so it gives the appearance of being an in-ground pool, but you can't dig into the ground out there.
So do we have images of what this wall's going to look like?
And I hate to be a pain, but can you move that whole easel back a little bit so that I can see what you're doing? I have studied it, but I just want to see what you're pointing to. If you could just move that closer to the wall, the whole easel, so that I
This
can
is what a
see.
mesa wall looks like.
Okay.
No,
No,
we-
can
we'd
you
like
move
you to
the
move the
whole-
whole thing so we can see it and the crowd can see it.
Yeah.
Sure.
There you go. Thank you.
Thank you.
I mean, this is typically what a mesa wall looks like.
What would it look
So
like
they-
on the property?
They do come in colors, if the owner decides that, he wants to do something different, but this is a standard gray, mesa retaining wall.
So this wall, this unilock wall.
Not unilock, mesa.
Okay, this is a mason wall. This is what the neighbor below them is gonna be looking at this wall?
Well, what they're gonna see mostly is the arborvitae and plantings that are put in on each terrace level. What we have,
What do they see now?
what they see now is, I'll show you a picture of what they're looking at now. This is the neighbor that's directly to the rear. And as you can see, the house is back up in here, and this hill just continues on down until it reaches the neighbor's house. What will happen is the wall
Excuse
will
me,
be
just-
along the property line area here.
Excuse me, just for clarification. But what we're looking at right there is the neighbor's property?
I'm
That-
on the neighbor's property taking a photograph back to the rear yard of the
The
property, of the
applicant.
subject property.
So right now, the neighbor has a pretty nice view.
And again, all this rock garden and everything is not gonna be removed. What's gonna happen is there'll be a stand of arborvitae planted along the rear of the wall.
And a big wall.
To shield the wall, to shield the wall.
How high is the wall?
We designed these walls so that each of them are 6 foot and under,
So how many walls, like total, all the walls, how tall is it?
18 feet.
18 feet.
But each segment.
The 6 and the 6.
6, 6, and 6.
And the separation distance between the walls?
Yeah, no, I'll show you that.
You know, they do that, they've done that in Elmsford in the new ShopRite, and at the end of the day, it's a really big wall.
Yes, it is.
It's,
gigantic.
they,
Actually, the largest example of the mason wall that I built here is the one that's behind the mobile station over in Four Corners.
yeah, but I don't want to position this as a 6-foot wall. It's really an 18-foot wall with staggered, right? So in total.
Again, yeah, you have there's the arborvitae, you have a 6-foot wall.
Right.
You come back about 12 feet, you have another 6-foot wall, and then you come back about 35 feet, and then you have another 6-foot wall. This is where the pool
So
is.
it's 18 feet of walls.
Say again?
It's a total of 18 feet of walls in
It's a
height.
total of, yeah, by the time you add it up, it's a total of 18 feet from this elevation going back up again. The property is extraordinarily steep.
Well, it was
How
that
tall
way.
are
when you
those
bought it.
arborvitaes?
Excuse me?
How tall are the arborvitaes?
The
that you're
giant
gonna be planting?
arborvitae is 20 feet.
When it's
You're-
fully grown.
Right, but how big are they gonna be when you plant them?
They're supposed to grow to 20 feet. That's why it's depicted that way in the drawing.
I understand, but they grow about 1.5 feet a year, so how large are they gonna be when you plant them?
I would believe 8 feet and 10 feet in the planting.
It depends.
That's usually, the giants come that size.
The green
And
giants go to
also,
about...
we have some
I'm
specimen
sorry,
trees
but
being planted in
those-
here as
the-
well.
The green giant arborvitaes go to about 60 to 70 feet.
Say again?
Green giant arborvitaes grow to about 60 to 70 feet high.
Well, they also have a variety that grows about 20 feet. That's what we're looking
So
at.
we would need to be very specific about what kind of arborvitae we're planting, because if we don't want, I would think that the 80-foot or 60-foot arborvitaes is probably not the solution for this.
I agree with you, but it's,
Yeah.
again, that's the reason it's depicted this way. And then, we spoke to the owner and decided that, there needs to be some oak and maple planted in here and subsequent to the construction of the walls, to reforest the area.
How many trees are you removing? How many are you removing? Full.
About a half a dozen. The ones that are being removed, are pretty much, silver maples and, pretty much trees that grew with, nobody planted them, they just kind of grew there. And they're not specimen trees, they're not,
So do we have a landscaping plan? Or we just, because what I'm hearing is we're having arborvitaes, but we don't know which kind of arborvitaes. We're going to have some trees planted, but we don't really know what kind of trees. We're just going to, so not all things are equal in landscaping. So like, do we have a specific list of what we're going to plant?
we can give you a specific list of them, it's not a problem. You know, the issue here for us had been going through engineering, getting the walls approved, which was really the major part of the problem. And like I said, this has been floating around now for 18 months or more.
Yeah.
But you're here for this, in front of this board, for a steep slope permit, for alteration of the steep slopes. And when I looked over our obligation reviewing the steep slope requirements, I got stuck on the first one. Is there no reasonable alternative to what you're proposing?
No,
When I
we
went by
believe
the
this is the
site,
best alternative because another part of the problem here is the control of stormwater. One of the things that these red blotches that you see, the wall is in front and the red blotch is actually aggregate. Mesa walls act like dry wells. There's no mortar in between the joints. They're dry. So what happens is water accumulates in the aggregate behind the walls and then eventually seeps out on slowly over a period of time.
Where does it seep out to?
Excuse me?
Where does it seep out to? Where does it, when the
are
water...
there weep holes in the wall? Where does the water go?
Well, that's the point. We slow the water down in each terrace so that the water drains slowly in the direction it's been draining, and we can't change that. And you don't have any storm sewers or storm drains or any other outlets.
So let me answer it this way.
In the cul-de-sac that's down below.
So the water's seeping through the walls.
That's correct.
And what's down below the walls?
Then you have down below is where you have
You have a house at the bottom of that hill, right?
there's a house down here, and there's also this entire planting area down in here.
Have you talked to that neighbor?
Yeah.
How
Is
do
that
they
neighbor
feel about
here?
this?
They seem to be okay with it. I was on his property, I met him when I was taking the photographs, you know, explained to him what exactly it is that we had in mind. And, you know, these are tough pieces of property, it's hard to do.
But it was a tough piece of property when he bought the property.
That's for sure.
You know, and I think we're trying to make a diamond out of coal. And I...
Give it enough time and pressure, I guess, maybe you could do that.
I guess.
I have a question. That fence that's there, it's my understanding that there's a conservation area around the whole subdivision that was for drainage, so I don't know how, is what I understand.
I was not involved in the actual subdivision itself. We were brought on by this particular homeowner.
Yeah,
Um,
but that fence, I
But
think,
apparently,
delineates
this subdivision was created out of what was really a substandard piece of property some years ago. So I have no idea what.
that, I believe it's all drainage. It all is to do with drainage from the runoff from it. Isn't that what that is? So I don't know how you're
It
going to...
delineates the open space.
Yeah, so there is open space there, so I don't know. It seems like you're going to build in that. I don't think you can build in that, where the walls are going.
I don't believe that this is dedicated open space. There is open space to
Well, it was
the
a
north
cluster.
of this property. This property line is in here somewhere, and to the north of this, there is open space that will never be built on.
So do we have a survey that shows what the easement might be, a drainage easement or a
There is no easement.
reservation? There is no easement on it?
Is there a
Okay.
homeowners association here too?
Yeah, and it's a clustered subdivision, so everything that was there was specific to be there. The fence was an area to delineate an area that was to be open. And whether there was an easement or not, your approval of the cluster plan dictated that. So you should see the full cluster plan to have a sense of that.
Is there, I forget now, is there an HOA over there?
Yes.
I think there is.
And are there any?
There is because there's common space.
Right, so in that HOA, are any restrictions or guidance or language? I would like to see the HOA documents.
Excuse me?
I would like to see the HOA documents on this particular neighborhood, because I want, because not only is the adjacent next door neighbor impacted, but also the HOA as a whole. Like I would like to see the HOA documents for the subdivision to understand, are there any restrictions developed or written in that HOA document that talks about this conservation easement, that talks about all these different types of
Would this information be available from the town?
No, your homeowner should have it. Your homeowner should have, if your homeowner purchased the home, they should have some sort of HOA document, if it's in an HOA, which it is.
Okay, I'll look into it.
Do we know if we gave the notice of public hearing to the HOA?
Yeah, all the notices went out. I gave them to Carol and yesterday. Yesterday.
And there's a sign on the property?
Excuse me?
And there's a sign on the property?
There's a sign on the property. We did the sign. We did the notice in the newspaper. We did the green cards. We did the mailings.
So I do, to JD's point, I feel like we almost need to send a notice to whoever the HOA is. It must be some resident who lives in that community, but they need to be aware of this proposal. And
We sent out 10 notices.
I understand that, but was it sent to the HOA people within that community?
There has to be a president
I
of the HOA.
followed the precedent of the town.
No, I know.
We understand. We're not saying you did anything wrong, but I'm just curious if the president of the HOA received this and if they want to speak on behalf of this, whether they're in favor or not.
I don't even know if anybody came here, to be honest with you.
We'll ask that in a second.
And just the other piece of that is there may or may not be some right of approval by the HOA of a private improvement on that property, so we don't know that.
Right.
So it seems there are a few things that we need to know, but going back to my initial thoughts were, the backyard, there is use of it. There's like a trampoline, a swing set and everything, and when this house was purchased, that slope was there, so the property owner knew what the limitations were. And to disrupt the steep slopes, we would have to, and issue a steep slope permit, we would have to have a kind of a compelling reason to allow that kind of alteration of the site that requires an 18 feet of walls. And I'm not feeling it, but I want to see those other documents and see if I can be convinced.
So let's kind of list the documents what we need. We need HOA documents. If we're going to do some kind of landscaping plan, I think we need to see a landscaping
It's
plan.
not a problem. We can give you a landscaping plan. It's actually on the plan that you were looking at, the trees that
And Eileen, was there something that you wanted?
I want to see if there are any limitations on the subdivision plat or the development plan for this being a conservation development. Are there any restrictions on that?
The original plat should have notes or restrictions. It should be right on the plat, so that's an easy document to obtain.
Okay, good.
And we can give that to you.
And I think if we get down to the point, I think we need to see an image of what the wall is going to look like. and where it is, because I'm hearing it's going to be here, a little bit there, like specifically where is this wall going to go and what it's going to look like?
What it's going to look like on this property.
A rendering.
Not just a rendering of a random wall. We often see an applicant will show us a visual of what the project would look like when it's completed. So that's kind of what we would like to see from that point of view.
And I know it sounds like we're being obstructionist, but we just want to make sure we're checking all the boxes like we do with every application. And listen, at the end of the day, thank goodness this giant hurricane that's hitting Florida is not coming through Mount Pleasant. But the town has endured a lot of conversation about runoff and storm drainage and mitigation measures, and I'm hearing about a wall that's going to be seeping water, and I'm not sure where it's going to go.
Well, what I'm saying to you is there's right now nothing to control stormwater coming from this property down to this property and down
Correct,
to the neighboring house.
But does your wall make it better or worse?
Makes it better.
Do you think it makes it better? Do we have
Sure,
engineering
because what
comments?
happens is it creates a series of terraces with
we have-
aggregate behind the wall, and the water gets trapped in the aggregate and then slowly bleeds out through the
Do we have
wall.
engineering comments to support that?
Excuse me?
We have engineering comments to support that assertion.
Basically, looking at the drawing of the wall will tell you that.
Right, because you of course are going to tell me that the wall is going to make it better, right? I mean, you're not going to tell me it's going to make it worse.
No, it's not even a question of that. We've engineered a number of these walls, and
I understand
and we
that.
do understand that one of the things they do is trap water. And the fact that they're not wet walls, that they're dry walls, the blocks are laid on top of each other dry, the water slowly seeps and oozes its way out between the joints in the wall.
Okay.
And it takes a period of time for the water to escape.
I think we'll have the town engineer will weigh in on this, right?
Yes, we
Okay.
should.
Yeah, I've had this conversation with your town engineer.
Okay. Any other questions? Because we are here for a public hearing. Any other questions or comments from board members? Okay. So let the record show there's no comments, additional comments from the board. Is there anybody here tonight for this application in One Point Place? Is anybody here tonight for this application tonight on One Point Place? Let the record show that there's nobody here from the public for this application on One Point Place. Okay, so I think the marching orders, if you will, or the task list that we're asking you to do is to get those items, which included HOA documents. We wanted to see the conservation easements, where they are on the site, and we wanted to see a landscaping plan.
And the original subdivision plat.
And the original subdivision
Well,
plan.
the original that'll have the drainage that was put in place to,
So the improvement drawings that accompany that would,
yeah, it's all on there.
Yeah.
Because I know there was a lot of drainage involved.
Would you know if the approval resolution for the subdivision or the site plan for the house include any kind of comments about the use of the lands?
might, I don't remember offhand.
Okay.
We'll have to look.
Could be.
I do remember pool conversations on this
We do,
subdivision.
yeah, I do too.
I do too, and I think there may be notes on the plat. I don't know if there were conditions of the approval, but I think there are notes on this plat.
Okay.
Okay, so
Usually,
To continue the
pools
public
also
hearing.
are governed
Yep.
differently than in-ground pools.
So with that being said, I think we're going to have to entertain a motion to continue the public hearing, so until we get those additional documents from you, and so you'll come back to us at some point. Okay?
When we have the document.
When we have all the documents. Any questions? Let's just go to the motion
I'll
process.
make a motion that we continue the public hearing. And then-
Second.
Motion from Jean, very fast, motion from Jean, second from Joan. Walter?
Aye.
Jean?
Aye.
Joan?
Aye.
Eileen?
Aye.
JD?
Aye.
And an aye from me. Okay, motion to extend the public hearing, just get those ducks in a row,
Documents.
and we'll talk more. Okay? Okay, let's take a motion to close the
Motion
meeting.
to adjourn.
Second.
Motion from Joan, second from Jean. Walter?
Aye.
Jean?
Aye.
Joan?
Aye.
Eileen?
Aye.
JD? And an aye from me. Okay, thank you.